spring break. Yeah, spring break.
Viewfinder, focus unlocked, image. Viewfinder, focus locked, 0 faces. 4 seconds. Viewfinder, focus locked, image. 100% battery power, charging. Viewfinder, focus locked, image. 0 seconds.
Hello, guys. What's up? Riley is here, and I'm back with another video. Welcome back to Electronic Game Tips. This is Electronic Game Tips, episode 3. And today we're going to be discussing a very important concept when it comes to owning and taking care of your electronic games, and it is how to deal with electronic game frustrations. Well, basically, the theme is why putting your frustration or your anger on your electronic game is not a good idea. So, I'm going to introduce this episode, not in a normal way, by doing a story here. And here's a pretty important story. And it's from an electronic games perspective. And now, I didn't write this down, I made it up in my head. And I'm going to say it directly from my head, because I'm too lazy to write stuff down. And I'm really good at remembering stuff on my with my head. And remembering stuff in my head, so... I was 5 years old. And I don't know how old my owner was, but he was something like 10 or 11. I know it was a guy. I had a really good time with him, but that quickly changed one day. That quickly changed my life completely one day, and it also ended my life. Because my owner was playing Simon Trickster. Well, no, okay, I gave out the electronic game, but my owner was playing me, and he obviously failed. He got so frustrated and so angry that he actually threw me to the ground, off his hands, and then he took me to a more opening room where I was scrubbed, I was thrown, and I was beaten nearly to death. It nearly ended my life. Luckily, I survived, but I now have a damaged sound chip, and I cannot produce loud sounds now because of my owner's incompetence. This guy completely took away my life. And now, being 11 years old, that terrifying nightmare is unforgettable, and I am not willing to forgive him for what he did. He is such a monster that I don't want to be in his hands anymore. From a little Simon Trickster's perspective. So basically what it's saying in this story is that there's this kid, and it's his owner, and he got so mad that literally what he did was he took this little guy and he technically abused him, because he's frustrated and he's pretty much putting all his anger and his fury and all of his frustration and negative emotions on his electronic game. Now, I'm not trying to be, stereotypical. I'm not doing anything. But, basically, based on this, as you know from the theme, putting all your anger and negative emotions into your electronic game just because you are frustrated is never, ever, ever, and I say this, never, ever, ever, a good idea. Ever. Here are some reasons why. If you get frustrated, first thing is, you get frustrated, and we know, we very well know, we clearly know what happens to people when they get frustrated. Their strengths are not controllable. So you start slamming things when you don't intentionally mean to, and you start throwing things at people most of the time. And you start, destroying things. You can't control, those activities because your brain is so pumped up and filled with that angry, negative feeling. And so that feeling just gives your brain a signal to put all those power and let all those frustration out of your brain. Because it literally has to get out now. But when you put these frustrations on an electronic game that's clearly working, it has lifelong consequences. So for example, like I mentioned to you about the Simon Trickster that got damaged and had to be really quiet, and was very quiet because, its owner just, attempted to kill it. Well, that's a lifelong consequence. It's going to be like that for the rest of its life. It's going to be like, it's kind of like how when you abuse a child or an animal. When you abuse them, they have most of the time, lifelong consequences. They could be brain damaged. They could be psychologically affected. And they could be physically damaged as well. Sorry, I'm just drinking this juice. And so, I've seen one consequence where okay, so I just watched this video. I saw one video of these guys, and there's a very rare electronic game called Say What by Mattel. Most of you don't know it. Most of you probably haven't even heard of it, but it's a very cool game. It's like this unscramble game. It's like this, you have a bunch of phrases and you have to try and they're all scrambled up and you have to try and unscramble them. The only YouTuber I know who has that game, like I know, Plushy Television. That's the only YouTuber I know who has Say What. There are a few of them on eBay. You can find them. There are a few of them on eBay. I found 2 on eBay. Well, actually, no, I found 1. The other one is just the parts of the game. But I found 1. And so, try and go search for it, and when you have an opportunity, you should get it, because it's kind of cool. But, okay, so I saw these okay, that's off topic. I'll explain in more detail in my next video. I'll try. Okay, so, there's these group of guys, they were playing Say What, and they got so frustrated that at the end of the video, one of the guy literally put his frustration and aggression onto the game, and so he was throwing it across the pavement. And he was also yelling at it as well. And so it has lifelong consequences. Now, the main problem people find is that when they get frustrated at a game and they abuse it and hate it and all these kinds of things, about 95% of the time, they blame it on the electronic game. They blame it on how the game is programmed. They blame it on the electronics. Now, let me tell you right now, and I'm not sugarcoating this, and you shouldn't sugarcoat this yourself, it's wrong. It's not the electronic game's fault. It's your fault. If you're getting frustrated, blame it on yourself. Like, if you're getting frustrated because of the game you're playing, do not blame it on the game. Blame it on yourself. Because, seriously, the game has nothing to do with your attitude and behavioral issues. If you're frustrated, the game you are playing is not responsible for it. So, for example, with the Simon Trickster example, this guy, he got frustrated because he couldn't play his Simon Trickster well. Well, the Simon Trickster is not responsible for that. it's him. It's his fault. Now, unless if you had a mental disability, like autism or behavioral issues, I mean, that's fine. But think about it as a normal person getting frustrated and blaming it on a game. Like, your game is not responsible for your frustration and your negative emotions. It's you. And so if you have a negative emotion, you don't deal with it by putting your negative emotion and your anger on a game. That's not the game's problem, that's your problem. So here are some tips that relate to this. You probably might be asking, well then, if I can't put it on a game and it's not the game's fault, then what should I do? I'm so angry. Okay, so here are some tips then. 1, if you're frustrated, put the game down and go somewhere else and don't take that thing with you. Why? Okay, because there is a higher chance if you take the game with you that you will put your frustration into it because your nerves are so, fixed on those angry emotions. And so it's sending a message to your body to put all those emotions, into any object that you're holding. So put your game down and go to somewhere else and then calm yourself down. Do not take your game with you and put everything on the game to make you feel better. Because like I said, it's not the game's problem, it's your problem. So, put the game somewhere where you will not be tempted to touch it, and then go somewhere far away, and then deal with your frustration there. Do not deal with it in front of your electronic game or games. And also, do not deal it in front of someone else, because if you get frustrated, you could be yelling at somebody else. So go somewhere where there's nobody around, where there's no games, nothing. Don't get bored, do something. But when you're frustrated, just go somewhere where it's quiet and peaceful, and then calm yourself down. And the best and most efficient way to calm yourself down is take deep breaths. Just take deep breaths. That's the most common way, at least I have been taught, to deal with frustration and stress. Tip 2. If you're playing a game and you know you will be frustrated because you've had that history, don't put all that force and history into your game. If you seriously don't like it, destroying it is not a good idea. If you have a game store, sell it. If you have a family friend or a relative who might want it, give it to them. Or if you don't want to be using it for a while, you could put it in storage. Because that's what people used to do with those old games, like Bop It Original, Bop It Extreme. They would store it away for a few years because they don't play with it. And then, when you feel a bit better about it, you can pull it out and then just play with it. Maybe you'll feel better. But never, whatever you do, do not, and I say ever, in 20 and 30 years, never ever destroy your games, whatever you do. Because it's never a bad idea. So just because you're frustrated doesn't mean you can put all those, effort and force into your game. Into your electronic game. Keep that emotion to yourself and then try and calm yourself down before you touch your electronic game. But just to remind you again, whatever you do, don't put your anger and frustration into your game and destroy it. Don't give it its lifelong consequences. So,
Viewfinder, 14 minutes, 43 seconds.
Okay, it's getting close to 15 minutes. So thanks for watching my video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye.
You in the